According to an interview with executive producer and episode writer Russell T Davies in Doctor Who magazine, this episode was originally offered to his friend and former colleague, the critically acclaimed and award-winning scriptwriter, Paul Abbott. Yes, Paul Abbott, writer of this gem.
We know how to throw a proper fucking party!
Abbott accepted and submitted a storyline revealing that Rose had been bred by the Doctor as an experiment in creating the perfect companion. No wonder it got rejected. The episode was titled The Void. However, Abbott had to abandon the project due to other commitments. Davies wrote Boomtown instead, bringing back Annette Badland as Margaret Blaine due to being impressed of her performance in Aliens of London and World War III, describing her as brilliant. The actor playing Mr. Cleaver, William Thomas, had previously appeared as Martin the Undertaker in the 1988 classic series story Remembrance of the Daleks. This made him the first actor to appear in both the original and the current run of Doctor Who. He later played Gary Ant Cooper, the father of Gwen Cooper, in the Doctor Who spin-off series Torchwood. Davies stated that he originally intended to call the episode Dining with Monsters, and even joked that a much better name for it would have been What Should We Do with Margaret? Davies intended the episode to be a character piece, exploring whether the Doctor had the authority to take someone to their death sentence, as well as showing the consequences of his actions the last time he met Margaret. The storyline he felt was fitting for Eccleston's war-torn Doctor. The consequences of the Doctor's lifestyle are also explored through Rose's boyfriend Mickey, who has been forced to move on because she's not around anymore. Davies describes the revolution as a deliberate deus ex machina, regressing Margaret so she can start anew, though Davies's defence is that the resolution did not come completely out of nowhere, as the TARDIS's psychic link had already been established. A lot of Boomtown was filmed on Cardiff Bay, with one scene in particular in front of the Millennium Centre in February 2005. The Doctor is seen reading the Welsh newspaper Western Mail. Davies stated that he wanted to incorporate Welsh culture because the series is now made in Wales and contains a lot of Welsh crew members. He also wanted to show off how beautiful the area could be. The night shoot of Rose and Mickey in front of the water tower at Roald Dahl Place had to be extended to 2 nights because it was below the temperature at which the fountain is automatically shut off. The dinner scene between the Doctor and Margaret was filmed in January 2005 at the Cardiff restaurant Bistro 10 before the rest of the episode was filmed. Eccleston filmed the scene while Piper and Barrowman were filming scenes for The Empty Child. This was due to scheduling conflicts with Annette Badland. Some of the schedule was also rearranged because of the death of Billie Piper's uncle, resulting in her and Eccleston being replaced by doubles during some scenes near the end of the episode. The story involves the Doctor, Rose and Jack landing in modern-day Cardiff, using the energy of the Cardiff Rift to recharge the engines of the TARDIS. They meet Mickey and the Doctor spots a newspaper article showing Margaret Blaine, a Slovene who has now become Cardiff's new mayor. The foursome track her down and discover her plans to design a purposely flawed nuclear power station to cause a meltdown that would open the Cardiff Rift and destroy the Earth so Margaret can escape using a pan-dimensional surfboard known as the Extrapolator. The Doctor decides to take Margaret back to her home planet of Raxacoricofallapatorius, but on returning, she will be executed. This episode is fairly unique, as it aims to show the consequences of a villain's defeat, and I'm all for that, as when the Doctor usually saves the day and then at the end of a story, we very rarely see the long-term consequences of his actions. In stories like Vengeance on Varos and The Happiness Patrol, they both end with the Doctor helping to overthrow the corrupt government in charge, but he's not really sticking around to help them rebuild society. He's more, there we are, I fixed it for you, now I'm going. Now here we have different details, but the story is fairly similar. Margaret will be executed when taken back to her home planet, but the Doctor has to stick around for a while before the sentence is carried out. While I appreciate the episode for trying something a bit different, and I'll admit, actually quite bold, because when you think about it, this episode is a sequel to a 2-parter that is often seen as one of the weaker stories from Series 1. And now that I think about it, in the first series we had the Daleks and Slovene both get 3 episodes dedicated to them each, and people complain that Series 11 had 3 historicals. Now on paper, that sounds like it really shouldn't work, and while the climax is where I have most of the problems, the fact that the first 2 acts work as well as they do is pretty impressive in my opinion. As usual, Christopher Eccleston continues to shine. While he has his fair share of comedic moments in Series 1, I think his funniest moments of the series can be found here. Plus I love his flirting with Jack Harkness.
How come I never get any of that?
Buy me a drink first.
It's such hard work.
But worth it.
Okay, it's official. The 9th Doctor is up there with the 2nd Doctor as one of the gay doctors. Now if you're wondering why I've put the 2nd Doctor there, just watch any scene with him and Jamie and then tell me you don't see a romance between the two. I think most of the comedy works here because it's played straight for the most part. The scene where he goes to see Margaret and tells the secretary that the Doctor has come to see her, the sound of the cup smashing and the Doctor's response, it's just priceless in my opinion.
She's climbing out the window, isn't she?
That line never fails to make me laugh or smile. I also like the way he casually defends himself from Margaret at dinner. It's still mostly played straight. But my question is this: what would Margaret do if she did kill the Doctor? She can't go 10 feet away from him without getting electrocuted by the handcuffs. And what is she going to do? Drag his dead corpse through the streets of Cardiff? Now I know politicians can get away with anything these days, but I doubt the Mayor of Cardiff could get away with that. For my Christopher Eccleston moment of the week, it would be later in the dinner scene, where it takes a more serious tone. Margaret is pleading for her life and uses her sparing of Kathy Salt earlier in the episode to prove that she's a changed person. Or Slovene. While the Doctor does believe her, it renders us nothing new to him. If you're a killer, every once in a while you do spare someone, because they smiled, had freckles, laughed, cheered, or begged for mercy. But Margaret has the upper hand in this conversation and rebuts, only a killer would know that. And I personally think that this look from the Doctor's face here says so much. It's almost as if all of the blood on the Doctor's hands from the people he has killed has emerged here. It's come to the surface. It's one of those rare occasions where we see the Doctor called out for his actions. Is he any better than Margaret for being the judge and jury when he's taken lives or lost people because of his own actions? As for our companions, we technically have 4 here, and in all honesty, they suffer quite a bit in this episode, but not really in a good way. Let's start with Rose Tyler. And in my opinion, this episode is the character at her absolute worst, and sadly I think this personality would only dominate her character in Series 2. Now let's recap all her bitchy moments here. Mickey comes to meet her in Cardiff, and let's not forget he travelled by train. Presumably he came from London, and going by train from London to Cardiff is very expensive. He meets with them and they all act so smug, and when they go off to explore Cardiff, Rose puts her arm around the Doctor right in front of her boyfriend. That's pretty awful, but that is nothing compared to her jealousy of Mickey moving on from her and meeting another woman. Hello? What do you have to be jealous about? You left your boyfriend, ran off with another man, met Mickey again with 2 men this time, one of who clearly wants to get into her knickers, and Russell T Davies has the balls to make her the victim in all this and have us, the audience, sympathise with her. What? Plus, when the rift opens, she leaves Mickey and just goes running back to the Doctor, leaving Mickey behind again. Maybe this would be the episode where she finally learns to respect Mickey, but no, it doesn't hold up because of her treatment of Mickey in The Parting of the Ways. But I'll get to that when I do. While we're on the subject of Mickey Smith, I really don't get why he's treated like shit by everyone around him. He is a character who has literally done nothing wrong, yet he's constantly written as if he's the bad guy wanting to take Rose from the Doctor. Though a lot of what makes this character sympathetic and likeable for me is the portrayal by Noel Clarke, who I think is such an underrated actor. The "you left me" speech is wonderfully delivered by him. This could have easily been whiny and unlikable, but delivered by Clarke it just feels so real and genuine. My heart genuinely breaks for Mickey. He truly deserved better. Luckily, he'd become more than just Mickey the Idiot in the next series. As for Jack Harkness, I felt he didn't really have much to do in this episode, just there to give out scientific mumbo-jumbo, though luckily I think Barrowman can do it quite well, so it doesn't feel dull. However, his best moment for me, I think, comes at the climax. Margaret orders Jack to put the extrapolator at her feet, and before he does anything, he looks to the Doctor, who gives him a nod of approval. And there's no dialogue between Jack and the Doctor, but he obeys him with no hesitation. It is such a small moment, but it shows that Jack clearly trusts the Doctor and shows how strong their friendship is. Our villain this week is Blonfel Foch Pasamir de Slevine from Raxacoricophalopatorius. Try saying that 3 times fast. But in all honesty, I always felt that Annette Badland was the best of the Slevine actors from that two-parter, and here she definitely gets more time to shine. This episode wants you to sympathise with Margaret, and for the most part, it does that pretty well. The scene between her and Kathy Salt is genuinely quite moving. Kathy has a life to go back to with her boyfriend and pregnancy, but Margaret is all on her own. Her entire family has been wiped out by the Doctor, and all she has left is to escape from this planet. And if I was to tell you that an alien sitting on a toilet would provoke sympathy from you, you'd probably say I was off my head, but believe me, this episode makes it quite effective. Though what I like about her plan is that the consequences of it would be massive and global, but here she's doing it because she just wants a lift. She would blow up a whole planet just to get a lift. To her it doesn't matter because the human race is just a bunch of ants compared to her. Annette Badland also nails the comedic moments. The teleport scene is pretty funny. Like the Doctor says, I could watch it all day. I do love the deadpan delivery when the Doctor asks her why she commissioned a nuclear power station, and she argues,
"A philanthropic gesture. I've learnt the error of my ways."
I don't know why, but the deadpan delivery there just adds so much comedy for me. Furthermore, I love her scene in the TARDIS when she wonders who can look her in the eye, as they're all technically her executioners. She really shines at the dinner scene, pleading for her life. It all feels genuine, and as I said before, rarely do we see the Doctor and a villain sit down and talk after being defeated. Twice in this case. Though I have some problems with Margaret. My first is this. How on earth was she able to become Mayor of Cardiff, demolish the Cardiff Castle and commission a nuclear power station all within 6 months? Furthermore, isn't Harriet Jones Prime Minister now? She knows that Margaret took part in the events at Downing Street, so why hasn't she acted against her? Unless London really doesn't care about Wales. Wouldn't surprise me. Also, all of the aforementioned scenes at dinner I think are rendered pointless in the climax because it turns out that Margaret was lying through her skin suit teeth. She had a plan B all along about using the extrapolator to open the rift and escape, so all those great character moments before were all just lies. Furthermore, the TARDIS turning her into an egg, okay, I'm fine with that, and I don't care about it's not canon or some shit like that, but it's an alright idea. The problem is the execution. She didn't really deserve a second chance when you think about it, because she was lying through her teeth. Yes, it may have been what she wanted, but arguably it wasn't what she deserved. If she genuinely wanted to have a second chance, I could have bought that, but she didn't. Because Russell T Davies wanted to end this with a whole bang. The climax with this episode is my biggest problem with this story. The character stuff is just sacrificed and in my opinion completely botched because it resorts to a noisy end-of-the-world climax. Think of the problems I listed in my Father's Day review and times that by 10. It wasn't too much of a problem in Father's Day, but it's more of a problem here because the episode bends over backwards and sacrifices all the good character stuff for the cliches and noisiness. While Father's Day had more good in it than bad, this unfortunately doesn't have enough good to have me forgive it more. Production-wise, this episode is distinctly one of the cheaper episodes in Series 1, but there is some nice location work, and I think Cardiff Bay does look pretty beautiful at night. Though, any Welsh viewers watching, I'm pretty curious, does Cardiff actually look that good in real life, or is that just the power of good direction? I feel that Joe Ahern uses close-ups appropriately during the dialogue scenes. We get to see the actors' facial expressions and we know exactly what they're feeling, particularly at the dinner scene, so props to him. Murray Gold's music is very good as well. My favourite track is probably The Heart of the TARDIS when it's opened. The music sounds so beautiful and omnipotent at the same time, but there's so much mystery surrounding it. It's really hypnotic to listen to, and that really connects with when Margaret sees it, she can't take her eyes off it, and I can't stop listening to the music. In conclusion, the first 2 acts of Boomtown are a pretty good character piece, with good performances and some funny comedy. While it's not heavy on plot, the moral dilemma of death is well presented here. However, once we do get a plot, the episode ironically becomes noisy and far less interesting, with the final act feeling rushed and written with such a huge cop-out. However, Cardiff looks nice and the first 2 acts make for good entertainment with an interesting major villain. So we could have had something better than this, and in my opinion we did with Father's Day, but overall it could have been a lot worse. Well everyone, that's all from me. Be sure to like, share and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Boomtown, and what is your favourite Slovene story. Now this can also include when they appeared in the Sarah Jane Adventures or any other spin-off material. Let me know and I'll have a look. And I shall see you all next time. Goodbye.